just welcome. And so Future Brain Trust on our last call is about revisioning human culture. And what I'm excited to talk to you about is because Space for Humanity is kind of part of this new narrative of what it means to be human in the era of going to outer space, right? And really kind of sending people out and bringing back those stories to share with the rest of us, right? So yes, for people that will be listening to this, watching, could you please share more about what Space for Humanity does?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here and grateful to be, speaking with someone who's so mission aligned. So yeah, thank you. So I'll share a little bit about my personal story before I go into the Space for Humanity mission. So basically I never had an interest in space as a kid, and it was not something that I really understood to be real. Like science class was a lot of just memorizing facts and regurgitating information. And I was strong in math and science. So like that was what kind of brought my interest, was just the fact that I was strong in it, but not because I really understood what I was learning in a real tangible way. And then when I was 19 years old, I was with a childhood friend who insisted on showing me the first episode of Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos. So for anyone who doesn't know Neil deGrasse Tyson, his Cosmos came after Carl Sagan's, who'd made the original Cosmos. And in that first episode, he shows the scale of the universe in space and in time. So he does our cosmic address, starting at the Earth to the solar system, to the Milky Way galaxy, and out and out and out and out, until literally it's like I understood Earth as being smaller than a speck of sand, and it completely transformed my view of existence, because I had no idea that we quite literally live on a planet, which even that is it's this obvious fact, but it's profound to like look outside and be like, I'm on, like, this isn't even, 99.999% of reality in the universe is actually not this. It's it's the vastness of space, and somehow we live. This is actually the founder of my company, Dylan Taylor. He went to space, and that was one thing that he realized looking back at the Earth. He said Earth is like a portal. It's like we all were born and this is what we think the universe is, but in reality it's most of it is not this, and we live on this like true haven. So I saw this as a 19-year-old, and it just completely transformed my view of existence. Suddenly, I had this gratitude for living here and being here and existing, and this new relationship to human beings, because I saw that we all share this planet together, and I saw that our commonalities far outweigh our differences, and I just saw how special and miraculous it really is to be here, and how at the same time nothing really matters, like in the scale of the universe, nothing matters.
Yeah.
So it just the lens in which I saw the world became different. And I wondered what would it be like if everybody had this perspective? What if everybody understood this like profundity of our existence? And I went into aerospace engineering and was really focused on building spaceships and rockets to help us become interplanetary. And along the way, I met people like Frank White, who coined the overview effect, and Dylan Taylor, the founder of Space for Humanity. And I learned about this thing called the overview effect that happens to astronauts. When astronauts go to space and they look back and they see our miraculous, interconnected, beautiful, fragile planet, and how it just changes them. And this became the most important thing for me, was showing people this perspective. And so that led me to starting with Space for Humanity. And the mission of Space for Humanity is to sponsor people from all over the world to go to space commercially. So that could be with Virgin Galactic, with Blue Origin, or another company, so they can have that overview effect experience and then come back down and be seated around the world to go and share that perspective far and wide. And so I guess how this relates to culture is, I could talk about all of this for a really long time, but basically from a greater systems change lens, we can address the symptoms of our challenges. We can measure like if you're working for a nonprofit, you can measure your success by saying how many people who don't have access to food am I feeding in a given day? These things that are really, really important, worthy causes. But what Space for Humanity does is we say, okay, what is the context that all of these challenges exist on? And they all exist on this planetary context. And so we need to expand our perspectives in order to effectively address them, in order to get to the root of the problem. So the way that we're shifting culture is by shifting people's minds. And then, it's like one of our astronauts might be passionate about ending malnutrition, and another might be passionate about access to education, and them having this perspective shift that can help them address it in a more effective way. As Albert Einstein says, we can't solve the problems with the same level of thinking that's created them. We must look bigger. Then we will be able to empower all these people to make a difference in things that they care about. So the way that we are working to shift the future of humanity is by fundamentally addressing our perspectives. And I believe this is the most important way that we can do it right now.
Right. I mean, I'm also curious, like as a 19-year-old, did you have, going into aerospace engineering, was it, were you approaching it from like a problem solving point of view, or you just like, this is just what I'm interested in, I will figure this all out later? Like, I'm curious.
So are you saying like problem solving is in like solving our greatest challenges, or?
Yeah, were you kind of inspired by like kind of these big, huge humanitarian-esque challenges ahead, or was it really about just the idea of getting into space, being involved with space? And
yeah, so it's a good question. So I think I didn't fully realize why I was there. Like I knew that space was the coolest thing ever, and I knew that it forever changed.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
And that's enough usually. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I knew that it forever changed my perspective. And I was already studying engineering. And so all I knew was my path to working in space was to be an engineer, and I became fascinated by rockets and spaceships, and got so excited about the possibility of working for, being able to work in an engineering role. But I'm grateful because I think that I think that I'm in the perfect place for myself at the moment, and I'm really grateful for the engineers who are really, really, really good at doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also too, to kind of tie in with the point about sending astronauts who are often engineers into space, when we have so many other challenges on Earth, it's just kind of an important reminder. I think what Space for Humanity is doing, kind of what the space industry is kind of pointing towards, is that we shouldn't really be defined by our challenges, but really defined by our aspirations, by our dreams as well. So I think that is a very inspiring piece to thinking about culture, human culture. Yeah, I think that's just a really great thing that space industry is offering right now, is this. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And I would it reminds me, are you familiar with Charles Eisenstein's work?
No, please tell me.
I think you'd be really interested in him. He's hard to define. He's like very, kind of like studies in a lot of different fields, but he's a Renaissance man. Yeah, Renaissance man, exactly, modern day Renaissance man. So he's a philosopher and a scientist, and public intellect, I would say, or public intellectual. And it's funny because sometimes, it's hard for me. It's hard for a lot of us right now. I look at it's like there was just 20 minutes away from my home, there was 1,000 homes that were burned in a wildfire. And it's all related to like the more extreme climate conditions that are happening right now, and like we were in a drought for the past 6 months just in my home. And then like, not to even say, what's going on around the world right now with all like the extreme disasters. And it's easy to be like, oh gosh, like what do we even do right now? Like how can we possibly address this? And his work talks about how important it is to like hold a hopeful future, or hold a vision for a hopeful future, because that's the only way that we can work towards it, is if we hold this vision and not get like stumped down by by what is currently happening. Like we need to hold this hopeful future together and work towards it with people as well. And our ability to do that shows that it's possible.
Right, absolutely. It's great creating like a hopeful vision as we kind of, again, face our challenges that we have right now currently. Also, so for maybe people that are listening or watching, I think if you want to point out, I think how Space for Humanity kind of works, because again, send kind of ordinary people to space is the aspiration, right? Or am I missing a few things? I got it. Okay, cool. One thing I was reading before was this really great story. Space for Humanity collaborated with Virgin Atlantic, I think.
Virgin Galactic, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Virgin Galactic. Different transportation system.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was just a really inspiring story about this woman from the Caribbean who will be going into space or has gone to space. I think that was just really inspiring. If you would like to share more about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm happy to share more about our mission too. So pretty much, yeah, last year was 2021 was a really exciting year in human space flight for a lot of reasons. And space in general. I mean, what the heck? It's so crazy. Like with the James Webb Space Telescope, and Richard Branson went to space, and Jeff Bezos went to space, and the founder of Space for Humanity went to space, and it's just like it's all happening. So we were really grateful and excited because when Richard Branson went to space, he came back down and he announced a campaign where anybody could pay $10 to throw their hat in the ring and enter to win a pair of tickets to go to space. And we ended up having, I think it was about 160,000 entries into this. Space for Humanity was the beneficiary of it. So all of the money went to support Space for Humanity's mission. And then just a few months ago, they randomly selected the winner, and it was a woman. Her name is Keisha, and she's from Antigua. And so I had the honor of flying with Richard Branson and the CEO of Omaze, Matt Polson, and showing up at Keisha's house and surprising her and saying, "Hey, you want a ticket to space?" And it was just crazy. I'm like, "What's?" And then it brought in a massive amount of funding for Space for Humanity, and it was just like a dream come true for everyone involved. And she hasn't gone to space yet. It could happen this year. I haven't heard too much about the dates, but she will be going with Virgin Galactic, so super exciting.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And then I would love to share a little bit about Space for Humanity's mission as well. So pretty much right now we take applications on our website, and we're planning, once we get the flights scheduled, we'd like to be like to open that up as an annual kind of thing. And we're similar, I would compare us to a fellowship program. So pretty much you apply to be an astronaut with Space for Humanity, and it's people are selected based on their potential for impact. So we're looking for people that are leaders in their communities, people who have a sphere of influence, people who are working to address some of our greatest challenges, people who would use this experience for good in the world. And so we'll be selecting people as cohorts, so a full crew. So that would be 6 to 8 people, depending on the flight provider. And we don't know who the flight provider is. It could be with Virgin Galactic or Blue Origin, could be with Worldview or Space Perspective, which are both stratospheric balloon companies. We're kind of just patiently waiting for the technology to be ready for us to start. And yeah, so basically we're going to be bringing people through training programs where they can think about this experience and think about the work that they want to do in the world and how they want to bring this experience down to their community. They'll be going to space, they'll be having that overview effect experience, and then coming back down and carrying out a social impact program of their own. So likely something that's already complementary to what they've been doing in the world already. And yeah, so people will have a year plus long commitment to carrying that out and impacting as many people as possible. And it's my hope that these people will become ambassadors for the rest of their lives, because this planetary perspective will never stop being vitally important and urgent. So that's what we're doing.
Right. I mean, this is again so exciting, and it's again, it's part of the human story, if you will, about sending like a cohort of just ordinary people, if you will, up into space. So it's kind of a link, right? Yeah, so, going through the applications, you're looking for people, 'cause, who knows? I mean, I know that a few people that would totally be interested in applying, myself included. So, when you're looking for applicants, you're looking for people that already have, say, nonprofits or do something in their community, or you're looking for storytellers. What are you kind of looking for?
All of the things.
All
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny. We've done exercises around like, who's your like preferred demographic, and we never have answers for it. Like we do not have a preferred demographic. We really, it's like the way we define inclusion is everybody's invited. And if you are compelled by our mission, if you're mission aligned, great, you should apply. So there's been people who have applied that, like, oh my gosh, crazy stories, like someone who was like a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor and who's like a pilot now, and then like someone else who survived the Rwandan genocide and then ended up becoming an Olympic cyclist. Ridiculous. Yeah. And then like people who have like hundreds of thousands of followers on social media because of their incredible art that they share, and people who like do house shows where they like sing and rap for their community, and like people who are students and just have dreamt of space their whole life. And there's such a range of people, and I think that's the beauty of it, is like space is the ultimate unifier. And so I can't say who.
Yeah.
Like I would never want to limit who applies to this.
Sure. I mean, again, like what you just touched upon is that space really does sound incredibly inclusive. And in some ways it's kind of ironic because, only if X amount of people can get to space currently right now. You have to have kind of Bezos's wealth, or you have to be with a government, right? So it's again, kind of an ironic thing that it's, people are immediately drawn to it. Yet, access is currently limited. How do you think, beyond having, ports from Earth to space, how other ways can you think that like the space industry will be inclusive just as much as in this area?
Totally. So I would say, I mean, so Space for Humanity is doing really important work towards bringing that narrative to space, and Richard Branson flying and then selecting Space for Humanity as the beneficiary at the same, like literally same week. Blue Origin gave us $1 million grant. We've
What
had
a
a lot of support.
Space for Humanity.
It was the best week ever. It was the best week ever. I know. I'm like, I don't know if we could ever have a better week, but I'm sure we will at some point. Anyways, so yeah, that shows me that the leaders in this industry agree around the importance of this mission. They agree with the philosophy that Space for Humanity is stewarding, and the mindset that we bring to this industry. There's a lot of organizations that are doing similar things. There's like fellowship programs like the Brooke Owens Fellowship and the Patty Grace Smith Fellowship that are specifically around creating opportunities for women and women of color. And there's a lot of different initiatives around about inviting different demographics into the space industry. So there's really good and important work happening there, because it wasn't always that way. It's like, yeah, I'm really, really grateful for the people who have gotten the industry to where it is. And I'm very excited to see what happens as we invite people from different cultural backgrounds and academic backgrounds and with different passions to join in as well. I think that it'll make the industry that much more I want to say like juicy, like it'll make it like that much more just like interesting,
Yeah, more colorful, it'll, it's bringing a lot of different types of, humans, and therefore will be a bit more, flavorful to
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And it'll also be better because I mean, from like a biodiversity perspective, I think it's important to just have the different viewpoints for longevity and well-being of an industry. And yeah, and then it gets to be more flavorful and colorful and fun.
Yeah. And I'm also curious, like, you've worked within, you work with people that are doing amazing work in the space. Can I? How many people say that? Space.
It happens once a week, I would
You're
say.
in a minute. Sector. Yeah, what do you think are some of the impending challenges, say like maybe the top 3 challenges for the space sector in general?
That's a really good question. I would say, I mean, I don't know if I'm the best person to even speak on it. I think that there's other people with a lot more holistic perspective to like the business and the technological endeavors that could speak more to that. I think that, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think like there's a lot of challenges, like there's space is a massive technology challenge, and
Sure.
there's there's a lot of endeavors that people are working on that you don't know if it's going to be possible, or you don't know when it's going to be possible, and there's companies that come before their time.
Right.
And because of that, they're not successful because we actually don't have the infrastructure to allow a company that's doing something a little bit more far out to be possible. And then it's also like there's another challenge that people are working to solve, including the founder of my company, that's like, if you say you have a space telecommunications company for the moon and beyond, that in order for that to be successful, we need infrastructure of the moon and beyond. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so in order to have the infrastructure for the moon and beyond, we need so much infrastructure set up to get there. Like we need like the launch company and the rocket company and like the satellite company, and like maybe we even need to have more presence on the moon, like there's like all of these things that we need in the interim to allow even this company to be successful. So I would say that that's a big challenge, is that this is a really interdependent industry. And so I think, yeah, like it's like a lot of companies need to be successful in order for any of our spacefaring dreams to be possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's a really, really great point, is that, we kind of think of space as some sort of outside thing when it's like, actually it's from kind of the bottom up, when you structure here. So
Exactly.
it's a really good point. Yeah.
And that's what I'll also add, is the founder of my company, Dylan Taylor, he founded Voyager Space Holdings, and they're working to directly address that problem with their company. And they're acquiring different companies that are different places along the chain to allow for that to happen. But yeah, I mean, and I think it's just like a risky business in general for investing, like it's like it's high risk investments at the moment. And so, yeah. And there's so much energy and so much resources and so much talent going towards this industry. And so, there's like, yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me to even consider what the future may hold.
Yeah. I mean, it's phenomenal that we're at this point that we can actually talk about these things, like having space tourism. Like it's kind of mind-blowing. I'm thinking of, I talked with Christine Peterson. She's the woman who termed out, the term open source, as in like open source tech, open source data. And, she's working on a concept about, how, what do we do with the resources that we find up in space, for one of them. And so it's kind of tying in with we were speaking earlier about inclusivity. So we have all these resources in space, and we're trying to build, an inclusive sector, which, space right now really is in general. But it's like, again, kind of this ironic thing of there's all these resources and X amount of people have access to it, but, few people have actual access to it, if that makes sense. And maybe I'm rolling down my words. So she was talking about, Christine Peters talking about, we have these resources here, but how do we actually, spread the resources out? Is it only going to be to private companies? Is it going to be for regular people? And I'm really curious. I think what Space for Humanity, I think, could open up is just a better dialogue about this topic, right? About what are we going to do with these resources? How do we yeah, how do we even talk about these things? So again, I think it's just space remans are really, really great, like kind of in the doorway of creating a much better dialogue between industry and just communities in general. So it's just a comment more than a question.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting topic in general. I know, again, I wouldn't say that I'm the expert on space resources. And there's people who say that, you know, in order for us to keep living on, like, I think Jeff Bezos, for example, a place that he stands is let's take all, I think he says industry off planet. Like, let's mine asteroids, let's like get our energy in space, let's get our and then bring those back to Earth. Let's not do that on Earth. And like, let's keep Earth the garden planet that it is. I don't know what it's going to take to get there, but I do know there's a lot of people who believe that that's what the future holds for us.
Yeah. And again, it's just what Space Freeman, I think it's just doing is it's inviting people to be at the table, to talk, to discuss, to experience what is. And I just think it's really great that it's really lighting people's imaginations on fire, and not just their imaginations. It's really like, it's inspiring them. Like, I'm just wondering, what are you guys going to do with all these entries, like these amazing stories for these entries? Like, I mean, you just some of them. I mean, it's incredible.
I know they're amazing. Well, we're closing our applications on February 15th, so I'll just make that known for anyone listening. So everyone go on spaceforhumanity.org/apply and apply. So yeah, what are we going to do with all of them? I mean, we're going to go through a pretty intense selection process and bring in some psychologists and researchers and people with leadership training skills, and as well as the team, and just think about, you know, who's going to be the best fit for this program. I would love to, you know, create ongoing community with the applicants and all of that kind of stuff. I don't have any plans that I can announce there yet, but I mean, these are all amazing human beings, and the fact that they're applying to this mission shows that they're already like innovative thinkers, and you know, probably working to make the world a better place in their own ways. And so, of course, encouraging them to keep doing that is so important.
Yeah. It's just, again, it's the stories, like the applicants, some of them, their stories are just already incredible. Like one of them that does art and has thousands of followers, the man that's survived a genocide. Like this is
so insane, right?
Yeah, it is really, really, really. Again, you're just inviting the flavor. That's what you're doing, Rachel.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so I that's all the, you know, questions I have. I just, again, like, just think what you're doing, the mission that you guys are doing, I think it's just really great, and yeah, it's inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm grateful for you for reaching out and inviting me to chat, and grateful for your work as well, because it's really, really mission aligned.
Yes, it is revisioning human culture. Yes. And you know, it's yeah, it's just, we need new stories, you know, about what it is to be human, what it is to, you know, what it means to be within a community. And we've had this kind of trajectory, this past, which is useful because it's really useful for the wisdom that it can bring us as we go forward. So yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, mission aligned.
Yeah, amazing.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, again, thank you. I think it's a good point to wrap up our discussion. So again, thank you, Rachel. And yeah, it was a really pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm glad, and I am glad I got to share a little bit more about Space for Humanity with you. So it was perfect.
Yes. Perfect.
I know that we were intending to do that anyway, so I think we killed two birds with one stone.
You know, we're just efficient.
Yeah, we're very efficient. But I was emailing someone yesterday about killing two birds with one stone. I was like, God, that's an awful metaphor. That's so terrible.
Yeah, why do you kill? Like, you know. What about like 2 flavors of ice cream in a cone? Like, you know what? I don't know. Like, like that.
I like that. Yeah, we'll have to sit with that one. Let me know if you come up with anything.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, again, thank you.
I'm actually meeting with Joe tomorrow, so I'll tell him that you say hi.
Oh yes, please do. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
Um,
Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you later. Have a good day. Bye.
Same to you.